And she's the Director of Development at the Houston Zoo and our special guest today. She works very closely with the individuals and foundations and corporate partners that support the zoo, and she's been in that business for quite some while. She's worked in the healthcare field and has been in Houston for quite a while, and she's at the zoo, and she's also at home. This is interesting. She has her own zoo at home as a proud mom to 7 cats. 7. Hopefully none of them are large cats, because that's a lot of cats, Jill. You're on mute. But that's a lot of cats. So hopefully they're not all sitting around you right now.
They're not, and I'm hoping none of them are going to meow and make a guest appearance. But if they do, it goes with the theme of today.
It does. It does. So thank you so much for joining us. We're very excited to have you, and we're very excited, as always, to have our relationship with the Houston Zoo and all the things that are going on at the Houston Zoo. And I know we've got this titled as Shasta and Friends. And for those of you who are joining us or just joined us, Jillian's going to be with us for a while today. She's got a nice presentation of not only what's going on with Shasta, but what's going on with all the other, we have some new births at the zoo. We have some new rules at the zoo. We have a new entrance at the zoo. We have all kinds of things going on at the zoo. We have things being built at the zoo. So we're going to touch on a few of those. And we'll take some of your questions as well. I don't know if we'll go a full hour or not, but we'll take all the questions we can take, and we'll go in the time that we do have. But to get us started, I know, Jillian, Shasta has been at the zoo now since 2011. It's been a very exciting relationship. And just give us a sense before we show our video of Shasta, of what Shasta means to the zoo for you all.
Shasta's really, and we thank University of Houston. It's a privilege to be able to have this partnership with you all. Shasta really represents really our native animals and our native local life. I am not a native Texan. I am from Florida, where we call cougars puma. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Where we call cougars pumas. So it's the cat with many names in North America. And for us, it really represents local wildlife. And that's one of the key parts of one of our recent habitats that we've opened, the Texas wetlands, is we want people to go back in their own backyards and see things like American alligators, bald eagles, and whooping cranes when they come down for the summer. For us, though, this partnership is just so special because University of Houston holds such a close partnership with us. And it's been wonderful to see Shasta grow and to see all of the alumni that come to have the rings blessed, that come to take their pictures for Shasta's birthday. We just think it's the coolest partnership, and we are so excited to be able to share an update on how Shasta and his friend Haley are doing, and welcome you to the Houston Zoo when you can come and see them. Like I said, he's definitely not the little one that's in Mike's back screen anymore, but just as cute. And but the funny thing is that Haley is definitely the one that runs that habitat, not Shasta. So that's a little insider secret.
Thank you so much. So we have a special video that we made recently, very recently, and we're going to show that now and give you a little backstage pass into seeing Shasta. Here we go. In advance, while we're doing that, there we go. Perfect. All right, we are here at the Houston Zoo, getting ready to start our wonderful keeper chat with our friends Jenna and Kathy here, who take care of Shasta and Haley, and we're so appreciative of the Houston Zoo. We know you can't see us talk because of our social distancing and our masks, but the zoo has been so good to us and the University of Houston for the past 9 years with Shasta, who will be celebrating a birthday coming up soon. And I know that Kathy and Jenna are going to take us through a little conversation with Haley and Shasta this morning. We hope all of you will continue to not only support the Houston Zoo as they reopen, But also, there's adopt opportunities all over the zoo. You can adopt the cougars or the elephants or the monkeys or whatever animal suits your family perfectly. We encourage you to do that. We encourage you to come out and see the habitat for the cougars here at the Houston Zoo. So you've been with Shasta and Haley for a few years now. What's the little known fact? Like, what's their favorite thing to do that you've seen just for fun?
Shasta loves stalking people. He thinks it's the most fun game. If you turn your back on him and he gets to sneak up on you, he thinks that's the most fun thing to do. Absolutely. And Haley's favorite thing to do is judge you. She really has a lot of thoughts on everybody, and she's not afraid to show them. So as some of us at home aren't going into work every day, we're starting to find that can be a little bit boring. And it can be that way for the wild animals too at the zoo. So we want to make sure that their minds are stimulated and their bodies are physically stimulated as well. So we're excited to have more people back. We're excited to get some U of H folks back here to see Shasta. We're excited to be able to start doing some of the normal things, so stuff feels a little bit more normal around here. But we modified how we're taking care of the animals. So we specifically want to be extra careful with the cats. So we've been keeping our distance from them, just like we are keeping our distance from each other. We're wearing masks anytime that we are near the cats. We're wearing gloves anytime that we feed them or interact with them at all, to make sure that nothing that we have on our hands we could possibly give to them. And we're doing extra super duper duper scrubbing and cleaning and disinfecting, just like everybody else is doing at home. Shasta was from the state of Washington. He was found at about 5 weeks old, which was way too young to be on his own. There is a legal hunting season, but unfortunately, Mom was shot as a trophy, and he was too young to have made it. So we had a space for him right about the same time that U of H was looking for a live Shasta mascot. So it worked out perfectly for all of us to partner up together, get an opportunity for all of the U of H folks to come to the zoo and see a real live Shasta, but also give us an opportunity to partner with such a great institution. So Haley was a young orphan from Idaho, too young to have survived on her own, so she needed a forever home. She's a little bit more red. Her coat is just even almost a little bit of a different texture than his is. And all that has to do with camouflage or the ability to blend into your environment. So where she would be found in Idaho, this is a much better coat for her to help her sneak up on her food. Where Shasta has a much smoother coat, the coloration's a little bit different. That's to help him blend in better in the Washington area. Obviously here at the zoo, they don't have to worry about blending in or sneaking up on their food. They get a meal every single day provided to them from us. But as you come to the zoo, you might find them kind of hard to see. This habitat really mimics that camouflage for them. A lot of times they are right in front of you, but you don't even notice them because they blend in so well.
You know, we so appreciate what you all do. Obviously, Shasta's very close to the 185,000 alums who live in Houston that come by and wear their red on Fridays in football season. And we have our webcam that's up here where you can see Shasta on our website. So we just want to say thank you for everything that you do, for not only for the University of Houston, but for the city of Houston. So thank you so much. So that's a great video. Obviously, it gets a little choppy on Zoom, so we'll post it on our website again where you'll be able to see it a lot smoother. But, you know, it's really a neat relationship that we have, Jillian, with the zoo. And those zookeepers do such a great job of taking care of Shasta, you know, all day, every day to be sure that he has what they need or what he needs. And Haley, as you like to say, it's an interesting relationship between the two where she really kind of rules the roost. On every day. You can kind of read her even facial expressions as to how the two of them get along so well.
Shasta definitely loves to stalk though. When we were filming this a few weeks ago, and they're very hard to find. Kathy and our keepers can always find them. And they said, hey, look straight ahead. Their favorite thing to do is sit on that ledge And I kept looking and I said, Kathy, I can't see them. They're like, do you see the tail? I'm like, oh, okay. I had to have a keeper tell me that, and I work at the zoo. So the Shasta cam focuses on one of their favorite spots to sit on. But they also like to sit on top of, there's a little cave you can walk in. It's closed right now just with our new path. But I also encourage people to look on top of that, because that's one of Shasta and Haley's favorite spots too. Any place that a cat can be high, that's pretty universal of cougars, tigers, lions, house cats. We just like to look down and look below and judge us, in Haley's case, as would be the case.
Exactly. So I know you have a great presentation, because Shasta's not the only animal at the zoo. There are many, and I know you want to talk about, and I'm glad you are going to talk about all the other things that are going on at the zoo and all the ways that our University of Houston alums that are watching here live and will watch later on can support the zoo. So, and as I mentioned before in the video, and as well as you just mentioned, you can also see the Shasta cam on our website. And I know we just put the link to that in our chat. So those that want to, when we're through here today, go on and look. It's amazing how you can kind of catch them early in the morning and late in the afternoon are probably the best time. So Jillian, I'm going to turn it over to you, because I know you have a little presentation you'd like to give us about what else is going on in the zoo. So I will give you the floor.
Let me take myself off mute. Thanks. Kristen, do you mind pulling up that slide deck if that's all right? Oh, Kristen, do you mind pulling up that slide deck if that's, oh, it's coming up, sorry.
You got it? Okay.
So it's,
we all lived through technology so long now, Jillian, that little bumps in the road don't bother us anymore.
No. Pre-COVID, this would have been like every online presenter's nightmare. Now it's like, okay, once it gets up, just let me know.
Exactly. All right, you have the floor.
Well, I want to thank everybody for, first off, for the alumni and for University of Houston Alumni Association for having this partnership with us. It's been really busy at our zoo. As you can hear, my husband's also leaving the house. So those are the household noises you get to hear on a webinar. So what I wanted to, and that's our new doorbell. If you'll go to the next slide, Kristen. So our zoo was closed for 3 months during COVID. But let me take you a little back behind the ways to the things that were going on at the zoo that we've been teeing up for in honor of our 100th anniversary coming up in 2022. So we are in the middle of a 20-year master plan that is going to renovate and update over half of the acreage at the zoo. And this is really the 20-year master plan. We have phase 1 that we're currently working on, because even if all the money fell from the sky, it would take a long time to make all these changes. And the intent is really to take what I think was started with the gorilla habitat that opened at the largest gorilla habitat in North America. It's very immersive if you've been there and seen it. And really to take that type of approach and immersion to tell the story of conservation and how by visiting the zoo, you're seeing animals, you're saving them in the wild. We want to extend that through all of our zoo. So this is really kind of the plan we're working on. So if you've seen a lot of construction fences, if you've seen a lot of different ways to get around the zoo, even before COVID, this was all the construction that was going on. Kristen, do you mind going to the next slide? So phase 1 is really this right here. So we have it started with the opening of the Hamill Foundation's Black Bear habitat that we renovated, which is directly across and behind from the Shasta and Haley's habitat. And this is all the renovation and updating we're doing. Now, if you came to the zoo before our closure in March, or even now, you can see where we have the new Catherine G. McGovern Texas wetlands right in the middle of where our Duck Lake used to be. And that's really to build on the theme of local wildlife, which Shasta and Haley are cougars. You can see them in parts of Texas and all up and down different parts of the United States. We wanted this habitat to encourage people to go out in their own backyard. And we also wanted to highlight success stories of animals that have successfully come back from the brink of extinction with help of people. And what better way to tell those stories than with ones like American alligators, bald eagles, and whooping cranes. So part of our, we're in the middle of a capital campaign right now, and funds for that are renovating and doing all of these different updates, but they're also tied directly to field conservation like paying for our whooping crane coordinator who's helping make sure they have whooping cranes have clear migratory pathways when they go down to Port Aransas. So really by visiting the Houston Zoo, you're saving them in the wild. And we want people to walk away with inspiration to take small actions. And I always like to call this out because we're in the middle of Plastic Free July. This is my metal straw. One of the things we're very passionate about is reducing single-use plastic consumption. And this, considering the amount of Diet Coke I drink a day, this is my easy little way to reduce the number of straws I would otherwise use. Can you go to the next slide, Kristen, please? So the one we're really excited about, and we're excited about all of them, but this is an overview of the Texas wetlands. And it's now available. You can see it as you walk on the one directional path through the zoo. And I'll talk about some of those zoo updates since we've opened post-COVID, just so everyone's aware if they decide to go for a visit. We'd love to have you. You can go to the next slide. So our next one that we're opening is the Pantanal. And the Pantanal is the largest, Kristen, do you mind going to the next slide? So South America's Pantanal. So we've had a long-standing relationship with researchers. The Pantanal is the region in kind of the middle part of Brazil that is probably one of the most ecologically diverse areas outside of the Serengeti. It's like Texas, it's floods, it's flat. I call it the land of giant everything because everything is bigger. There are giant armadillos, jaguars, giant anteaters. And it's a really, to my knowledge, there's not been a habitat done about this particular region of the world. And we've had strong conservation relationships with several of those animals I just mentioned for several years. So we're really excited this is gonna be, when you come into the zoo, this is gonna be kind of on the, if I'm heading kind of like toward the right. But it's still currently all under construction. We're gonna have anacondas. If you go to the next slide, Kristen. We're going to have jaguars, giant anteaters, and the viewing's going to be really spectacular because this is an example of our viewing for our giant otter and our jaguar habitat. They will not be in the same habitat, and this jaguar walkover is another. We want people, when they come to the Pantanal or when they come to the Texas wetlands, or in 2 years when they come to the Galapagos, we want people to feel like they've traveled to that part of the world. So you're going to be able to overlook flat areas that represent the lodges where cowboys bring in the cattle from the Pantanal, and look out and see all the diverse aviary life and wildlife that's in there. So, and we want people to understand how you're saving animals in the wild by viewing them and participating as a guest and as a supporter of the zoo. So we've had longstanding conservation partnerships down there, and we actually just did our conservation gala last year, was around the Pantanal, and funds from that have been instrumental to helping continue their work down in that part of the world for data collection, animal monitoring, and really just understanding how do people live and cohabitate with these animals, because that's really the focus of conservation nowadays, is our approach at least is how do we support and elevate and encourage locally driven projects that involve the local communities to be sustainable for the long term. Kristen, if you don't mind going to the next one. I'll stop. Is there any questions or anything? I usually stop and ask if there are questions kind of along the way.
We're monitoring those right now. I have some stock, but you're doing such a good job. I'll hold those for a minute. Okay.
So this is an aerial shot where the construction's coming up to being done. Our animals will be moving in soon. And that's something that's interesting. Like when we finish the Texas wetlands last year, that finished in about probably mid-April, and then we opened to the public a little later. But there's generally, whenever we have a new animal habitat, we give about 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the animal, for the animal to get adjusted to their habitat. It's kind of like us moving into a new home. In some cases, these animals are new coming to our zoo. In others, we have, for example, giant anteaters. That's one of our animal update baby-wise. We had a new one that was born named Tracy in April, and they cling to their mom's back. They're really cute, but they're really hard to find when you're looking at them because they blend right in with their mom's back. But we're moving them. And so we want our animals to have time to get acclimated. And that's really the other piece that I think's amazing about our master plan is we want people to see our animals in an immersive way, but we also want our animals to have the highest quality care and enrichment in their habitats. Much like when you guys saw in the video, Kathy and one of our other keepers were doing some behavioral training with Shasta and Haley. They were feeding them meat and some goat's milk, which is a really kind of like an ice cream treat for them. But that's to keep their enrichment up, and we just want them to display the same behaviors we would see of them in the wild. You go to the next slide, Kristen. Okay, I see a question. Are there any animals the zoo wants but cannot get? I would say so. I would say we've got so we're 55 acres. Let me back up and talk a little about geography. We're 55 acres and landlocked. So we don't have, our whole remodel effort is renovating existing space. We don't have places to kind of build and add on spaces. And some animals require a big footprint. If you look at our elephant habitat, we have, want to say 10 elephants, probably 9, 10, 11 now with Nelson, the baby that came in May, who is super cute, by the way, and best time to see him is in the mornings. But they take up almost 3 acres of our 55 acre. They take up a big footprint because that's a lot of elephants. And we have 2 separate yards for our elephants. We have the matriarch yard and we have the bachelor yard. So several animals need bigger habitats. That's sometimes why we might not have other animals that other zoos do. And for obvious reasons, like, that's why we don't, we're in the South. Polar bears would not do well in this climate. We're also part of a national accrediting body called the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. And us, along with every other accredited zoo, work amongst ourselves to make sure that when animals come or move between zoos, they're being done based on recommendations from groups of keepers that manage the history of that particular animal. So there's always a reason why, like when Hassani, our lion, came 3 years ago, it was because Jonathan, our older lion, had passed the year before. And we had gotten a recommendation because Hassani was younger and had a better fit with our older lionesses who are about 9, 10 right now. So there's always a reason. And that's one of the reasons why we are part of this accreditation. And that's one of the reasons why I can always tell people comfortably, look to visit an accredited zoo, because we maintain, it's kind of like a hospital. We maintain very high standards for participation, and moving animals and getting animals is a whole science in and of itself.
Wow. I hope you're going to take the gray screen away from the baby elephant and show me the baby elephant.
I am. If you want to go to the next picture. So Nelson's pretty remarkable because so first off, who doesn't love that face? He is the hairiest little elephant we have had. And his hair, you can see it from a mile away. He is super cute. But he had a really interesting story because when he was born on April 12th, he actually, immediately after his birth, and our keepers, I usually tell people our zoo is very good at having elephant babies. We've had one almost every year I've been there. And Nelson's joined now by 2 older sisters. But immediately after his birth, his keepers and our vet team noticed that he tore a vessel in his umbilical cord. He was rushed into emergency surgery just an hour after his birth. And our vet and elephant teams that do birth watch, they are prepped for this. And we are so lucky that they knew exactly what to do. And he is doing great and can be seen exploring his habitat. So that's another cool thing that I think is a cool feature of our zoo is we have a full vet clinic on grounds with 4 vets and an amazing set of vet techs and keepers that just provide the best care to our animals. If you want to go to the next slide, Kristen.
Now we have more babies. I got to see this little guy or girl. I can't remember which one you said it was.
This is Tracy, Olive's daughter, and this is a baby giant anteater. Now they will be they'll have a new bear habitat and our new Pantanal habitat. And but for right now, she spends most of her time riding around on mom's back. She was born at the end of March, so we had a lot of animal births in between our 3-month closure. So there's a lot to see if you haven't been recently. You go to the next slide. The next one that I really think is super cute is this is Peter Rabbit. So Peter Rabbit is a Schmidt's red-tailed monkey that was born over Easter weekend. Peter needed to be hand-raised by our animal care teams, but he's slowly being introduced to his monkey family so he can be reunited with them soon. And he just has the cutest eyes in the world to me. Those are the kind of eyes I would give anything to. So I think he can ask for whatever he wants and get it.
He will be on every Adopt an Animal brochure.
Exactly. So I mentioned our vet clinic cares for our animals on site, but every year our veterinary team treats dozens of wild sea turtles that can be found injured or sick or just needing help to return to the coast. This is a really great photo of our 2 sea turtle hospital keepers, Andy and Cody, who released 2 green sea turtles back in the wild on May 19th. We actually documented this, so I'd encourage anyone to go visit our Bringing the Zoo to You website, which is where we did, when we were closed, we did a live stream of every day we were closed on a weekday of a different animal. There's a really great video of them releasing these 2 wild back out into the ocean. So even during our closure, we continue to rehab and release the turtles, and we expect to see an increase in hook and fishing line interventions, which plastic is often one of the things that sea turtles become entangled with or ingest mistakenly, thinking it's food. So we expect to see that go up as we move into the summer months. And so yes, we'll post a link, but it's Bringing Our Zoo to You. If you just type in Houston Zoo, Bringing the Houston Zoo to You, we've got lots of animal videos from everything from elephant baths to meeting baby Nelson to cheetah walks. So just plenty of stuff to just keep you entertained on a hot day. So I've talked a lot about this in Wild Zoo. Let's talk about what you kind of have to be aware of now that we're visiting. So like every other organization, our zoo spent a lot of time asking, how do we make it safe for our animals? You heard Kathy talk a little about this in the keeper chat, as well as our guests to come back and visit the zoo. And we had an amazing group of a reopening committee made up of people from across all departments in our zoo that really thought of every angle to make sure we could welcome back guests safely in a way that would be safe for our animals and our guests, but also just to have people back, because as you heard Kathy say on that video, our animals miss people. I think my favorite story is when our giraffes during our closure would see our rangers go by. Our rangers wear a red shirt. So if they would walk after them kind of because they wouldn't see people. And anytime someone would walk by, you'd have the undivided attention of the giraffe herd because they're looking for when you're going to feed them. So our animals are definitely happy and glad that everybody's back. So a few things. Masks are required for guests and staff. It complies with Harris County's mandate as of June 22nd. And we've redesigned the pathway through the zoo. So it's a one-way in, one-way out pathway. It gives access to most every part of the zoo. Our indoor habitats are still closed. But you can see, you can see the elephants, the gorillas, our Texas wetlands, our dragons are still here. TXU presents our Dragons, our summer exhibit. That's included with your tickets purchase now. And the way you reserve your tickets is a little different. So before all of this, you could just show up with if you're a member pass, you could show up with your membership to come in, or you could buy tickets at the gate. Now we're asking that everybody reserve tickets ahead of time. If you're a member, you just have to reserve tickets. There's no cost to you. We have 3 time slots, 9 to 11, 11 to 2, and 2 to 5. So you can pick one of those if you're a member versus a non-member, and dates are available for those through July 31st. The animals are out a lot in the mornings. They know it's hot like we do, so I always encourage people to go in the mornings if they can. And really, the path is such a way that it's really easy to social distance. And we've got hand sanitizers everywhere. We've got our friendly staff helping direct people since it is a new pathway through the zoo. The day I went back for a visit, I got lost. So do not think it's a problem if you get lost. One of our rangers or our amazing admissions team will help you find your way. But it's it's definitely, it's been nice to be back. And I think our animals and everybody has been excited to just be able to back and see what's been going on at our zoo, because when we closed in March, we didn't have all these new animal babies. So visiting the zoo, our tagline is see them, save them. And that means that by visiting the Houston Zoo and seeing animals, you're saving them in the wild. So I invite anyone to come back to our zoo whenever you would like. Tickets are available to reserve online or purchase. Now I had just checked that out. But there's also some other fun ways to help our zoo. We have a fantastic adopt an animal program. There is such a selection of animals to pick from, and this has been a huge hit while we've been while we were closed. But it's just a great program. You can adopt a plush animal at different levels, and we have one that's unique to Shasta. So the picture right here shows you adopt Shasta at $75 and includes a plush and a few other little things and a certificate. But it's a great way to have Shasta in your room without, or having it as a screensaver. And Mike's even got his little Shasta right there. You beat me to it. I was hoping to have one that I could show on mine. Super cute. The other thing that I think is really cool, and this is a source of enrichment for our animals, is we have a lot of animals that are very talented artists. So we have animal art that's done by rhinos, our giraffes, our elephants. They all have a different way that they might, I think Mike's going to get his painting. We have 6 available right now that were done by Shasta. They range from about 150 to 200. And they're all different. With the cats, sometimes they put their paws and they walk all over, like you can see the paw work that Mike's showing. Our rhino, they put it on he backs up with his butt onto the painting. So they all have a different style. I think when we were talking about this during the keeper chat that you guys just saw, Shasta just likes to get in the paint. He doesn't necessarily have an intention of getting paws on the paint. He just likes to get in the paint. It's all washable and safe, nothing that would harm our animals. But we have a lot of choices there. And so I'd encourage you all to go take a look at that. The other thing that we have is, as you can imagine, we were closed for 3 months. And so if you're inclined to give any sort of help to our zoo, we have our annual zoo fund. It's about $100 to feed Shasta on a weekly diet with his weekly meat of carnivore meat. And so if you're inclined, we'd welcome any gifts or support. But more than anything, we just invite you all to see you out. And we just really appreciate the community's support. And this is on our website. This is where you can go to give or support if you want to buy an animal art or you wanted to adopt an animal. Oh, sorry, Mike, were you saying something?
Nope.
And this is also where you can go to reserve our tickets online.
Well, that is so great, Jillian. We really appreciate all of that incredible information. And we will take a few questions for a few more minutes. I see Rachel has one. Do alumni get a discount or membership? Why don't we talk about what UH alumni opportunities there are and how we do fun things on Red Fridays and those kind of things?
So Mike, can you help me out with this? I'm trying to think. Do alumni get discounts?
Yes, they do. And
okay.
Students get into the zoo free.
They do. They get in free. All you have to do is show your student ID.
And throughout the course of the year, we've teamed up to do various Cougar Red Friday promotions. I know we do promotions for Shasta's birthday party, which for you don't know is in late September. September 28th is Shasta's birthday. So hopefully we'll be able to have a little fun over there on the maybe on the webcam if we can't go in a large group. But there have been discounts historically, not only that the zoo offers, but then we get opportunities through our Life Member program that Kirsten runs, where we have some things that we do with the zoo. And one thing that I think is also fun that I know you can speak to, Jillian, is that when things open back up, and they will, you guys have boardrooms over there, and you have space to have events at the zoo that are really unique. I know there's one we rented used for a really nice boardroom that's inside the gorilla habitat.
That's the gorilla tree house, and it's a beautiful second story overlook to our gorilla habitat. For obvious reasons, we're not currently doing any events right now, and I'm not sure when that will change, but we do have some beautiful spaces, and you can check that out. We have a page on our website if you want to reserve a rental or an event.
And so I had a couple of questions. We have just a few, we have a few more minutes. One of my questions really quickly was, are there best practices that you all did? Like, is there a zoo conglomeration that you all communicate about, either A, what you're doing during COVID, or B, you talk about how we have baby elephants kind of a lot. Do we share those? Do the animals tend to get transferred to once in a while because someone is looking for a certain animal, or how does that work?
So the group I mentioned earlier that is our accrediting body, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, one of the coolest things that I still think it's amazing, and I've been at the zoo 4.5 years, is every animal that is in a zoo, accredited zoo, has a group of keepers that manages the lineage of every animal. Let's say it's all Asian elephants. And they manage what we call a stud book of every Asian elephant that has ever been in an accredited zoo, their genetics, their where they moved to, and it's that kind of tracking. And there's a whole math and a science to it that informs, when does an elephant of ours move to another zoo. The best example I can give you is so our giraffe. We had our giraffe Joshua come to our zoo. I want to say it came from the Nashville Zoo, maybe fall 2016, and he came because he was a breeding recommendation for Camille, one of our young giraffes. And they actually just had their first baby, and he is Bobby. But that was a recommendation based on blood type, based on genetics. And so every animal has that kind of work group, very experienced keepers of knowledge, and they manage that back and forth and really inform, when we move animals. But to your point about elephants, we're very good at having baby elephants. We collaborate with the Asian elephant work group to share, things like the surgery that Nelson had. It's only because we have people with such deep expertise on the vet and elephant keeper side, really, that Nelson was able to pull through for that.
Wow. That's really interesting. So we have time for probably one more question. We don't want to go just too long, but this has been so helpful. I have a kind of an interesting question. Where do the special diets for the animals come from? And have you guys been compromised at all because of COVID, where you can't get the diets for the animals? Have you had any issues with COVID keeping you the food that you need for the various animals?
Not to my knowledge. We have several staff that have been with our zoo for a very long time. And one of those is our manager of animal nutrition. She's been with us 30 plus years. She has been through every major hurricane, every major storm. And so like before Harvey, we stocked up a lot for, thinking about giraffes, elephants. We have a lot of animals that eat a lot of hay and that eat a lot of browse. So she had the foresight to stock up on it. We have a whole barn dedicated just to hay and the different kinds of hay that go to our herbivores. So she stocked up on that well before. So we fortunately have not had any major issues there. I will say what I think is kind of cool, and I try to give our animal nutrition team shout outs when I can because they're so creative. When it's like Shasta's birthday, or in the case of one of our sea lions, Camilla turned 16 a few days ago, they made a whole ice sculpture of treats and things like that to celebrate her birthday. It's on our Facebook page. So they're really quite inventive and just creative when it comes to thinking about, how do you create a diet for 6,000 different kinds of animals and keep it interesting. I mean, I don't get that at my own house, and I would love that.
Right. A couple of years ago at Shasta's birthday party, they made Shasta a cake that was built out of all kinds of deer meat and some other stuff, and there was a large fish sticking out of the top of it. That was the candle, an actual whole fish. So it was great right up until Shasta found it out and started gnawing sideways on it in front of the crowd of 300 people, which is a little something. So I'll ask you one last question that Nancy asked, which is, and it's a prideful question, right? There are a lot of, I grew up in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Zoo is all that in a bag of chips, right?
Yeah. And it's one, I think, isn't it the oldest zoo in the country?
It's the oldest zoo, and then you have the National Zoo and you have the San Diego Zoo. So where does the Houston Zoo compare in that in your space in the short time you've been at the zoo? Relatively short. I mean, that's not a few years is short, but and what is your most prideful thing when you give your elevator speech about the Houston Zoo? What is your most prideful thing about our zoo?
I think for us, we're a small but mighty zoo, and I say that because not small relative. We're 55 acres. There's several zoos that are hundreds of acres, but we're the second most visited zoo for paid attendance in the country. Like last year, we had, I want to say, about 2.1 million guests annually, and that's right behind San Diego. So we're the largest educational institution for education for conservation education in the area. And I think what's most impressive to me, and has been impressive to me since day one, is whether it's our rock star keepers or the innovative way we approach conservation by partnering with local communities to elevate their conservation projects from the Galapagos Islands to Borneo in Southeast Asia. Our zoo's culture is all about conservation. The simple example of I keep coming back to my straw is because our Plastic Free July, which was started staff driven and now has expanded to be a huge participation event among our guests. Everybody knows how their work is saving animals in the wild, and I feel comfortable that it's very humbling to work for an organization whose mission you can be so passionate about. And it's so rewarding to talk to people and partners that have favorite memories of the zoo and hear what they love about it.
Well, Jillian, thank you so much for joining us today. Please pass along our appreciation to everybody at the zoo for everything they do.
Thank you. And please know we thank you as well. We thank the alumni. We think University of Houston is such an asset to this city. And congratulations on your new College of Medicine.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's just opening up. So we're very excited about it. HoustonZoo.org is where you can find more information on the Houston Zoo and go out there and adopt Shasta or Peter Rabbit, the monkey, which I have to keep reminding myself, Peter Rabbit's not a rabbit, it's a monkey. And the baby elephants and the dragon exhibition, all the things that are going on out there. So I want to thank our team for putting this on. I want to thank everybody at the Houston Zoo for participating. This webinar was recorded and it will be up on our website going forward. So please tell your friends to support the Houston Zoo. By proxy, you're supporting the University of Houston. So we thank you all so much for being here today. And as we always do at the end, go Cougs.